Thank you so much for coming out tonight before Rosh HaShana. We know it's a very busy time, and it's a tremendous chus that we have tonight Rabbi Lowy, the Maradasra of the Aguda, and Rabbi Ephraim Elio Shapiro, the Maradasra in North Miami Beach. And this event tonight is presented by Project Inspire. As many of you are aware, Project Inspire came on the scene about 8 years ago and has been a trailblazer in promoting Achdus and caring about Klal Yisrael for everybody. That Baruch Hashem in Toronto, when we talk about Achdus and Klal Yisrael, you just look at your neighbor on your right and the left, and oftentimes we don't have to go beyond that. I feel like when Project Inspire does their events in Brooklyn, so people need detectives to go find people who don't look exactly like them. Baruch Hashem, over here we have many opportunities. And that's really the reason why we decided to sponsor this event tonight, is because we have Rosh Hashanah coming up and Sukkot, and then we have Parshas Lech Lecha, the Shabbos project. So it's an incredible opportunity to really reach out, to think beyond what we're doing today and think about who we could affect tomorrow. So that's from the Project Inspire. I'd like to introduce now Mr. Stewart Heitmann. Mr. Heitmann has really been the driving force behind Project Inspire International. And he's a tremendous, tremendous Oskin in this community, very involved with many Meistasim. And it's my pleasure to call upon Mr. Heitmann to address us.
I want to welcome everyone tonight to this very important evening in terms of what we want to accomplish for Project Inspire in Toronto. You know, for me personally, it is a tremendous bracha to be involved with an organization like Project Inspire. And tonight I just want to tell you, I want to communicate to you just two really short messages. Now, the first one. As good as the Kiruv organizations are out there, as great a job as they do, they need the Frum community to accomplish their goal in a complete way. We have to understand this. They just don't. They do great work. They're Mekarev Yidden. They bring them closer to Torah. They don't have the manpower that the Frum community is. They need us, and we have to understand that we are required for them to have their ultimate success in their job. And that's what some of the things that we're trying to accomplish here with Project Inspire. We have, as we had Rabbi Leib Irons, who works for NCSY and Torah High, and we brought him on with Project Inspire as well. And one of our strategies is to network between the Kiruv organizations and the Frum community and create those relationships. That's a key strategy of what we're trying to accomplish. They have all the database, they have the people who they're working with, and we are the manpower, and we have to understand they need us. We have an essential and a critical role to play here. That's the first point. The second point I want to make is, if you ask any Baal Tshuva, when they were on their pathway to become Frum, ask them, did they have a Frum person who was their anchor, who was their person that they would go to for questions, who was their person they leaned on when they needed something, who they went to for Shabbos most of the times? Do me a favor, do this survey. Ask around any Baal Tshuva, and they will tell you all the same answer. They all had that one Frum person, that one Frum family that was their anchor in their pathway to Yiddishkeit, to Torah and mitzvahs. So, ladies and gentlemen, do you understand what I'm saying here? There is no Baal Tshuva out there who does not have a person like this. That means that each one of us, if we have 300 people here today, 300 people go out of this evening and commit, I am going to be the anchor for another Yid out there, that's 300 Frum Yidden. That's 300 Baalei Tshuva. You don't have to be the one. Of course, they're going to go to other Rebbeim. They're going to go to Kiruv organizations. They're going to go to different people as well. But you can be that one rung on their ladder. You can be that anchor for them. And you should understand that that is critical. Every Baal Tshuva has had a relationship like that. Ask them. I'm sure there's some Baal Tshuva here tonight. Ask them tonight, if you know one, ask them, I had one, ask them anyone. So you should take that, get chizuk from it, and know that you can make a difference. You can have that impact. If everyone comes out of tonight, and we're going to tell you a few things that we're planning for the coming year and for Tishrei, but if you go out of tonight making that commitment, you can change somebody's life. And that's what we're trying to accomplish here. Those are the two short messages. So I'll just continue by saying I have the schus of introducing Rav Moshe Mordechai Lowy Shlita, the Mar D'Asra of Agudas Yisrael, Toronto, who you should know is also a pillar for Kiruv in this city. He has a close relationship with all of the Kiruv organizations, and they come to him for different eitzos, and he has been there. So we should, again, it's our honor to hear Divrei Hisarus and Chizik for upcoming to Rosh Hashanah.
Good. Shapiro Shlita, the whole Rabbanim, the whole Olam, and thank you, Mr. Heitmann, and thank you, Project Inspire. Mr. Heitmann was speaking about Kiruv. I think Project Inspire is, if we get inspired ourselves, we would automatically inspire others. If Yiddishkeit is alive by us, if Yiddishkeit is not something we do from rote, Yiddishkeit is something we live Yiddishkeit, we'll automatically be, people will look at us and learn from us, and we want to help others. Today, in this week's Parsha, we have Atem Nitzavim Hayoim Kolchem Lefnei Hashem Elokeichem. And the Zohar HaKadosh says, Hayom, Do, that's Rosh Hashanah. We're all standing a few days before Rosh Hashanah. We all went through a whole year. All kinds of things happened during the year. Personal things, public things, Kol Yisrael things. And we want this year to be a good year. We want to be inscribed in the Sefer HaChaim. We want it to be a year of life. We have to show that we're living Yidden. I'll read to you something that I saw today from prospective ger, convert. We give always, they have to answer a lot of questions to know about Yiddishkeit. So question 12 is, what is the greatest challenge for Judaism? Give reasons to support your opinion. He writes, the greatest challenge therein lies in bringing and making Torah literally feel like life, that a soul will feel alive in the service of God, which is a major challenge. People need to taste Hashem, to feel His presence, to learn about Hashem. As priority of education, then naturally they'll want to do more mitzvahs, God willing. It says, even those who are from, I hope to bring Torah Judaism back to all those souls, even those souls who are from where we're formerly from. But I want them to live life. The Kotzker Rebbe says, Torah has to be living with Torah. Torah should be something that you feel a chiyus in Torah. Shabbos should be a lebedige Shabbos. I'm talking for our own children. If children come home and Shabbos is a beautiful Shabbos meal, Shabbos, when they see the parents love Shabbos and don't dread Shabbos and look forward to Shabbos. We find in last week's parsha in the Teichacha, the whole rebuke that the Torah gives and everything that happens, because you didn't serve Hashem with simcha. And everyone questions, because of that you have the whole teicha happen. And the answer is, if you're not happy with Torah, you're not really serving Hashem. If you do mitzvahs begrudgingly, and you do mitzvahs haphazardly, you daven haphazardly, you don't really feel you're talking to Hashem, and you don't really know that you're living a Yid. Taste the love of Torah, taste the love of Hashem, be close to Hashem. And that's the purpose of Slichus, and that's the purpose of Ella, and that's the purpose of Aseres Yom Tshuva. It's days where the Rebbeinu Shalom comes close to us, and He's waiting for us to come close to Him. He's waiting for us, come near to me, come closer to me. Ani l'doidi, v'doidi li. The Rebbeinu Shalom is waiting to show that we really care about Him. We don't do mitzvahs because we have to do mitzvahs. We do mitzvahs because we choose to do mitzvahs. In this week's parsha, in the end of the parsha, it says, Hashem says, I gave you chayim v'mavas, I gave you life and death and toiv v'ra. Uv'charta b'chayim. Choose life. Choose Torah. Don't do Torah because it's forced on you. Realize how beautiful Torah, Tamu, look how beautiful it is. And live like that. And then it will affect your children, it will affect your friends, it will affect your family. The child sees how happy you are with your Torah, how you're living with Torah. I mean, when you come to the Shabbos Tish, you sing and you and the Kedusha of the Shabbos Tish, the Dvar Torah of the Shabbos Tish, and the holiness of the Shabbos, it automatically affects everybody around. So Hashem, like the Rebbeinu Yonah brings down, like the Rambam brings down with his Rachmanis, gave us days of reflection, days to wake up from our slumber, wake up from our sleep, and not be so involved in our mundane life, and know there's a higher purpose in life. And the higher purpose is to be close to Hashem. The higher purpose is to Erev Hashem, to serve Hashem. Be somebody who really loves Hashem. And you feel the love to Hashem. V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha. You love the Rebbeinu Shalom, and everyone has in his heart to love Hashem. You just have to open up your heart. And that's what Slichus is all about. And that's these days before Rosh Hashanah. Are days where we have to bring Yiddishkeit alive to us. Something that we live with Torah. We're happy with Torah. Happy with doing mitzvahs. Run to do a mitzvah. And run to want to do a mitzvah. I remember my Rashiva, he used to, it says in Shulchan Aruch, you should run to go daven. You should run, it's a mitzvah loroitz, it's a mitzvah to run to go daven. And when, in the last years of his life, he only lived on a quarter of his heart, and he couldn't run from his house to the Besmedrish. So his Rebbetzin used to bring him to a few feet in front of the Besmedrish, so he should be able to get out of the car. He ran into the shul. You run to do a mitzvah. We want to be alive with a mitzvah. Then it will also be an impression on others. Then others will also feel like you and know and live with the mitzvah. But then there's another responsibility. Is it enough only I should be happy with mitzvahs? What happens with all the children of the Rebbeinu Shalom who don't know better, who never ever taught them anything? We're all responsible for every Yid in the world. In this week's parsha, the Ramban and the Arachayim HaKadosh bring down that what's the new covenant that we have in the parsha of Netzavim? We had already a covenant in last week's parsha in Bris. They say the new covenant is the Arevus. Take responsibility on every person in the world. Take responsibility to help another Yid. Take responsibility to bring another Yid closer to Hashem. A person who goes around and is satisfied only with himself is not loving Hashem. These are Hashem's children. Hashem's children are lost. They're lost. Ta'isi keseh oived. I swayed like a lamb that's lost. So the Rosh Yeshiva of Hebron once said, why does it say like a lost lamb? He said if an object is lost, you have to go find it. If a living object is lost, it also goes to try to find its owner. The lamb is running one way and the owner is running the other way. To Isi, a person who's swayed and is not far from Hashem, but he's looking for Hashem, he's searching for Hashem. And we ask Hashem to come and bring us back. And Hashem gives a duty for every Yid. Go help another Yid. Go try to show another Yid how beautiful Torah is. Go, if you really love me, go and, if you really love me, Hashem says, if you really care about me, care about my children, how could you live next to a person who blatantly doesn't do the mitzvahs, and you know you could make a difference in that person's life? People always say, no, they're scared to speak to others, scared to try to influence others. There's a story, the closing of the Rebbe Zechariah Bracha, most of you heard of him. After the war, he brought hundreds of people, thousands of people back to Yiddishkeit. And when he passed away in 1994, a woman came into the Rebbetzin sitting Shiva with the children, and she had a bag in her hand. And they asked her what her name is, and the name didn't ring any bell. She said, I came here for one reason. The only reason I'm from is because of this bag. He said, what is... She opened up the bag and took out a pair of white socks. She says after the war, and she was walking in Fehrenfeld, where the Klosberger was, and two girls were walking without socks on their feet. The Klosberger Rebbe walked over to them in a nice way. He said, Yiddish Kindle, you know girls shouldn't walk around like this. So they started crying, Rebbe, you want us to put on socks? We don't have any bread to eat. You're asking us to wear socks? So the Rebbe sat down there in the middle of the street and took off his white socks that he was wearing and gave it to me to wear. And these socks stayed with me my whole life. And here she brought the bag of socks and brought it back to the family. This is what gave me my spiritual life. This is what brought my life back. Sometimes a small thing you do for another person, a small thing you do for another Yid, and you care about another Yid. You care, hesitate, should I tell her to wear socks, not tell her to wear socks? But you say it in a nice way, and it stays an impression. Because of that, this woman raised families and families of from her children. And just imagine the schus when the Klosberger Rebbe goes in Shemayim. When he went to Shemayim, the thousands and thousands of children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, that because of his little actions, the same time, there's another story that happened also on Erev Yom Kippur, the same year, in 1945. The Klosberger Rebbe was sitting ready, preparing for Kol Nidrei, and there was a knock on the door, a soft knock on the door. He goes, opens the door, and there's a 17-year-old girl standing there crying. She says, I'm left alone. Every Erev Yom Kippur, my father used to bench me. My mother used to bench me. There's nobody here to bench me now. Rebbe, what should I do? And here, the holy Rebbe, the Rebbe says, come here. The Rebbe took a handkerchief and put it over her head and put his hand on and benched her like a father would bench a daughter. He says, my daughter, you're my daughter and I'm benching you. She went out. A few minutes later, another knock came on the door. Another girl heard what happened to the first girl. She also came. Said, Rebbe, you have to bench me also. I also have no parents. 87 girls came in to get benched from the Rebbe. And just imagine how many families came from those 87 girls. How many families came caring about another individual, feeling for another individual, doing for another individual. We were talking about the Shabbos project. Last year, we all know in the community how many people were influenced by the Shabbos project. Shabbos project is in Parshas Lech Lecha. There's a beautiful Zohar Kodesh in Parshas Lech Lecha, and Zohar Chodesh. And the Zohar says, when Avram heard that Lot was captured. So the Zohar says it's it's a mashal to the Yetzer Hara. He heard that people were caught by the Yetzer Hara, so he went to go save the people. And he went to make him, and he ran till dawn to save them from the Yetzer Hara. It says, what's the reward for a person who helps another person come back to Yiddishkeit? The Zohar Kodesh says, what's the reward? Malki tzedek, melech sholem, hoitzi lechem beyayin. So the Zohar Kodesh says, Malki tzedek is Michal, the Malach Michal. The Malach Michal, who sits by the gate of tzedek of tzaddikim. Malki tzedek, melech sholem, is the melech of Yerushalayim, Lemala and Shemayim. He says, when these neshamas who helped other people come from, who helped other people in Yiddishkeit, and from doesn't even mean someone is completely not from. If you help someone who swayed away a little, you bring him back a little. Help people come back to the Rebbeinu Shalom. So the Zohar Kodesh says, the Michal goes to those people and he brings out Lechem Yain and says, come, Bo'el L'Shalom. You're the peace. You brought the Rebbeinu Shalom to the world. The Zohar Kodesh in Truma says that if anyone would ever know the schus it is to go help other people come back to Yiddishkeit, they would run for it like they run for life. You're looking to be signed in the Sefer of life. You want to find life. Find another Yid that you could help. A Yid that fell away, or a Yid that never knew anything. Find him and you'll find life. You run like you would run for life. And that's the mitzvah. The mitzvah is, there's a Zohar Chodesh brings also that there's a baskol that goes out, Ashrei, praiseworthy is the person who learns Torah and runs and helps other keep mitzvahs, even if sometimes there's some pain with it. I'll continue reading from this person what he wrote. I believe the greatest challenge for Judaism is to figure out a way to connect those Jews who have no connection to their Father in heaven back to Hashem. Here, this is what Kambit is writing. Unfortunately, many reject Torah not out of knowing what Torah is, but of false notions and misperceptions that are accumulated through various misunderstandings. We need to find a way to understand the needs of the generation, to speak of a Torah in their language that can enter their hearts. Most secular Jews will not respond to rebuke. They do not know Torah as Eitz HaChaim. So what is the point of rebuke? Unfortunately, a lot of Orthodox world is inaccessible and intimidating for the secular, with the exception of some Kiruv organizations. And that's what Project Inspire is here to. Every one of us is a Kiruv. It's not only the Kiruv organizations that have to do Kiruv. The responsibility is on every person. And the Zohar Kodesh brings down that someone who is able to be Makarev and Chas v'Shalom is not Makarev. It says what the punishment is. If you could go, it says, the Rebbeinu Yoina brings down, when we come to Yom Adin, and Rebbeinu Shem, you come and ask Hashem to forgive you, to help you. The Rebbeinu Shem says, what did you do for other people? And if somebody, it says that you could have stopped him from sinning, and you didn't stop him, it's considered like you sinned. It's considered like you had that sin. If you were able to stop a Yid from doing something, and you didn't because, you didn't want them to think that you're proselytizing, that you want them to think that you're bothering them, and you could have stopped them. You could have bring a person closer. I remember one year at the Gouda convention, they had a person who became about Tshuva get up, and he said, if somebody would have, when I wasn't from, somebody would just come over one time and show me how beautiful it is. People are scared that the religious people ran away from me like I'd be something contaminated. They didn't want to talk to me. Talk to it, not from me. Show my Yiddishkeit. I remember as a child we grew up, we had a neighbor that wasn't keeping Torah mitzvahs. My parents were European Yidden, weren't into Kiruv. But the heart here, they invited these people, they lived on the floor next door, they invited them to our sukkah, they invited them to bench Esrig. And for years and years later, what they remembered about it, how beautiful it was, that they were invited to come and see a sukkah. I remember there was one year where Beis Yaakov started that Shlachmanos should be sent to neighbors. Svenska Shlita, he said he used to walk from his house to the school every day, and he saw all those doors with mezuzahs, and never so far from Yiddishkeit. He said, just send shlachmanos to one neighbor. We sent shlachmanos to a neighbor 2 doors away. She came running back. She didn't see shlachmanos for years, and she sent us back shlachmanos, and reawakened the Yiddishkeit in the person, reawakened something in the other person. If you care about the Rebbeinu Shalom, you care about his children. And if you don't care about his children, it means you don't really care about the Rebbeinu Shalom. If you really love the Rebbeinu Shalom, you know that you care about him. How could I help your children? How could I do something for your children? There's a mashal what they give. There's a child that was going on camping and the father told him, you'll come in this town. I have a very close friend over there, and go to them, and if anything you need, you'll get there. This child was robbed. He was left without anything on him, and he comes to that little town, and he goes to his father's friend. He knocks on the door, and he says, could you please give me a piece of bread? I have nothing. He says, what are you bothering me? Go away. He says, my father told me to come. You're making me crazy. What do you want from me here? I'm busy now. Go away. Come back another time. And this child went from house to house till he was able to get something, to mooch things, to be able to have some food, until he got back some money to come back home. And he came back home, and he told his father, you wouldn't believe what happened. I was completely downtrodden. I had nothing. I went to the person's house, and he didn't want to do anything for me. A few months later, that person in that small town needed a favor. He needed his friend in this big city to do something for him. He comes to his friend and he says, I'm going bankrupt. I need someone to bail me out, help me out. And he looks at him, he says, do you know who I am? He says, sure, we're good friends. Are we really good friends? What happened when my son came to your house? Did you do anything for him? And he started crying. I didn't realize. When we come to the Rebbeinu Shalom and ask the Rebbeinu Shalom, help me, Rebbeinu Shalom. And Rebbeinu Shalom says, am I really your friend? Are you really my friend? What did you do for my children that are lost? They're going around downtrodden. They have nothing in life. Do you do anything for them? Your next door neighbor who doesn't know anything about Shabbos. Your friend that went off the derech, did you do anything to help them? Do you do anything for them? And what do we answer to Rebbeinu Shalom? I'm a descendant of the king of Poland for one day. There was the king of Poland, his name was Szolwo. He was king of Poland for one day. My mother's family's name used to be Vol, they changed it afterwards. And the direct descendants, so we have royal blood from the Polish dynasty, besides David HaMelech, the Yiddish dynasty. But so how did Szolwo become king of Poland? Because the prince was lost and came to the town where Szolwo lived. And no one helped him because no one believed in him. He's really the prince. He went around and he came to Szolwo's home. And Szolwo said, what can I do for you? He didn't care. Does he look like the prince? Does he not look like he helped him? Later on, when Szolwo came to the capital, and the king's son, the prince said, that person, he is the one who saved my life. Without him, I wouldn't have been here. So when the king died, and there was a big question, who should be the next king, the prince said, I want Szolwo to be the king. But he didn't have Polish blood, but he became king. And that day that he became king, he changed all the decrees that were against Yidden. He tore up all the decrees against Yidden. If you help the king's son, the king will help you. If we help the Rebbeinu Shalom's children, we scream, Avinu Malkeinu, you are our father, you are our king. Do we really believe he's our father? Do we really believe that what do we do to his children? And that's why we have to go out of our way to do things and caring about our children. Show them how beautiful Yiddishkeit is. It's like we said, sometimes it's hard. Somebody, yesterday, Rebbeinu Shalom makes Hashgacha Pratis, they came to ask me, they have guests for Shabbos. And they found out that the guests don't really keep Shabbos. and they don't even make brachas out of their house. And they said that they feel maybe they shouldn't invite them anymore. I said, what do you mean you shouldn't invite them? So when Avraham Avinu invited guests to their home, did he check if they're keeping Shabbos? Did he check if they make brachas? He made brachas with them. But they're faking, they come, look, but you never know. Your mitzvahs, bring him into your home. Bring him into your home. Bring him into your home. And show him how beautiful Yiddishkeit is. Show him, you never know what it does. And just for the mitzvah of caring of Rabbi Nishom's children, take my children in, Rabbi Nishom says. Rabbi Nishom should help. We're all asking, we should have a good gebenched year. We're all waiting for Mashiach. We're all waiting for the Geula. The Hashem should gather all the scattered in the world. We have to show the Rabbi Nishom that we gather the scattered neshamas. We have to show the Rabbi Nishom that we care. And Rabbi Nishom sent down in this generation a few great people, the Chafetz Chaim, Chazon Ish, Robbie Shapiro, and he sent down Hagon Reb Noach Weinberg, Zechron Levracha, who understood what it means to inspire Yidden. He said, if every Yid would just get one more, every Frummi Yid would get one more Frummi Yid, one Yid to become Frum. Just imagine the revolution of Yiddishkeit in the world. Just imagine what would happen. There would be a big revolution coming back to the Rebbeinu Shloim and be the biggest Baal Tshuva movement. The biggest Kiruv movement is every Frummi Yid takes upon himself when he leaves here, takes himself till Rosh Hashanah, I'll try to have one family, one person that I could speak to do one mitzvah. And that chus will help, that we should all be zoiche to be written the Sefer HaChaim in a good life, Chaim Toivim, Aruchim, Chaim Shal Bracha. We should be all be zoiche to Ksiv Chsim Toivim, and we should be zoiche to be a Shnas, Geula, Yeshua, and we should be as Mashiach, B'meir B'meinu, Amen, a good yontiv.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Lowy. I feel like I follow Rabbi Lowy around because Baruch Hashem, he married somebody from Detroit and I'm from Detroit. And then I moved here and my shver is very close to the Rav. So he's always been an incredible support to everybody who's in Kiruv. So I just want to give you a quick perspective before I introduce Rabbi Shapiro that I don't talk to anybody who's from. My entire day, other than with Project Inspire, they tried to change it. But by and large, I deal with people who are, don't necessarily look exactly like all of us. And it's pretty incredible. I had over a family who's totally secular. The father told me he's an existentialist Jew. I said, what does that mean? He said, well, we shouldn't eat sea fish or shellfish because they gather all these microorganisms from the ground. And, it's nice to have family dinner because it's good for you. And I told my kids that they must marry a Jew. And none of them listened to me. And I made a mistake. I didn't marry a Jew, and they didn't either. I said, Baruch Hashem. And then he tells me that his daughter got very inspired on one of our Israel trips, and they wanted to bring her a treat, but they realized lobster is not kosher, but they said they won't tell her what it really is. She'll never know. So she comes home, and she's very inspired, and they serve her the lobster. She says, what is it, lobster? And she says, wait 1 second. They gave me a book of brachas. Let me look it up. And she starts leaving. She said, I can't find a bracha on lobster. Never, But Baruch, it's amazing. And these people were willing to come over for Shabbos. And they own a store that many from people go to. But I don't think anybody ever invited them. And it's really incredible that if we just think who we could have. I'll tell you a quick story. I was a counselor in Camp Simcha. And I had a camper, Brian, who since has passed away, unfortunately. And he lived 3 blocks away from my house in Detroit. And I was away in Eretz Yisrael. I called my mother up. I said, could you please give Brian Mishloach Manos? She said, fine. She comes home. I call her back half an hour later, and she says, you gave me the wrong address. I said, what do you mean? She says, well, there was an Xmas wreath on the door. There were lights up. It's the wrong. I said, no, that's the house. She goes back. She gives it to them. There were 2 dogs and a cat, a huge TV. She was shaken up. She's like an Alta Yiddish mama. And this family had no shaykhs. After he passed away, about 2 weeks later, the owner of the local Judaica store called my mother and said, do you know this family came into my Judaica store and they decided to buy a mezuzah. They were so touched by the way these yeshiva bachrim came to help them in the last moments of Brian's life that they decided to do something more. And we never know how we could touch everybody. So I just wanted to share with you, to introduce Dr. Leib Weiss. Dr. Leib Weiss sent me an email today how he decided to challenge many people on his block to give out an easy outreach gift. We're selling them, if you want, for $6 or $5.99 actually, but we don't give change. So $6 outside. So I highly recommend that you go out and get some. And there's a fellow over here in our front row, Andrew, who he didn't buy them. He decided his wife was baking gifts or honey cakes, so he said, why bake one honey cake? Bake 7, obviously, and give them all out. But he didn't want to knock on doors, so he hung them up outside people's doors, and then they came up back, and they started giving him gifts in return. So it's actually worthwhile, because if you're looking for any gifts at this time of year, you could start giving out your own gifts. So just quickly, wanted to thank, before I introduce Dr. Weiss, Rabbi Sampson, who came in special from New York. Rabbi Sampson, whenever anybody asks me, is Project Inspire for real? Like, what do they really do? So I say, you have to meet Rabbi Sampson, because there's a man who has so much passion, and he's convinced that we are going to change the world. And I'm also convinced, and the truth is, I think, Baruch Hashem, there are many more women here than men. And I've told people we don't even need the men. Because there's somebody who I used to work with, who I've been in touch with, maybe some of you know her, Mrs. Adina Rudinsky, don't tell her that I mentioned her name, or Bistritzer. And she decided for the Shabbos project, she's going to invite everybody on her block for Shabbos. So she told her parents, told some others, right, got some other families involved, and she put out an invitation every door. And there became a whole fight with people on the block that they were upset that they weren't invited. So they said next year, Mitzvah Shem, but it was a beautiful Suda. And there are many, but somebody just told me he hosted a big party on his block for non-from people, just to engage them. So it's something everybody could do, and you don't have to wait for your parents or anybody else. Just tell them you want to invite people and do it. V'zehu. You didn't hear that from me, but I definitely recommend it. One final thing before I call up Dr. Weiss is I really want to thank Torah Masora, Dr. Marvin Sigler, because they have an event tonight, and we promised them that we're going to try to end at a reasonable time so people can make it to Ray Becher. Ray Becher has spoken many, many times for Project Inspire, and I know Mr. Sigler is also bringing in Rabbi Kron through Eitz Chaim. That's after, right before Yom Kippur, which I highly recommend to go. He also speaks all the time for Project Inspire. So everybody's into the mission. The question is how to do it. So hopefully you'll figure that out tonight from Dr. Weiss.
So Rabbi Irons asked me just to speak for a few minutes to tell you why I feel so strongly about this and why I challenge my friends and bribe them to call people over. So there's really two reasons. One is that I'm sort of like a kiruv addict, because once you make somebody from, it's kind of like making a shidduch. If you've ever made a shidduch, you have this enormous sense of nachas from the couple, and then when they have children, you feel like they're your own. When you make somebody from, and I'll qualify that statement, because you don't have to make them from, you just have to give them the opportunity. But when somebody becomes from because you're their friend, you have enormous nachas from it. And I do it, I would love to say that I do it for all of the lofty reasons that we've heard about, and they're all true. But there are very few things that you'll get as much satisfaction out of as the continued nachas that you have from a from family. So I'll tell you about one situation that happened, and actually Rabbi Lowy was a part of it. Rabbi Lowy gave me a book called Jews for Nothing many years ago. Jews for Nothing. And I actually gave you back a different one. I had to buy it on eBay because the guy I gave it to that subsequently became from because of it didn't give it back to me, and I didn't want to ask for it. So I had to go on eBay and buy this book for many, many times more than it was worth because maybe it was out of print, and I gave it back to you many, many years later. But he kept it, and he's now from. He has a from family, and I just have nachas from him. And it's funny because he started going to a daf yomi shir, and he was going to this shir in a certain shul, and I got a mailing from the shul because they were having a raffle, and it was a random sort of mailing. I'm not normally on their list, which is, I guess, in itself surprising, but I wasn't. And I said to my wife, you know what, I'm going to buy tickets. And she says, you have nothing to do with them. And I said, I do. That guy goes there, and I'm so proud of him. I'm going to buy a ticket because I want to support the shul. And I won the tickets to Israel. So that was excellent. So one of the reasons I do it is because it just feels good. When you make somebody from, you have nachas, and that itself is reason enough. There is another reason I do it, and that is for my parents. My parents, Aleihem Shalom, were both Holocaust survivors. They both went through Auschwitz. And my mother said to me that she says to me, Leib, we lost a lot, but in the end I won. Because she, thank God, had 3 frum children. But globally, we're losing. We're losing to assimilation, we're losing to intermarriage, we're losing to apathy, and I think we're losing to affluence. And I think that probably the first 3 have a lot to do with affluence. Do you know in Israel what the biggest travel days are of the whole year, where you can hardly get a room in a European resort? Rosh Hashanah. They travel because they don't know any better. In Israel, the Jews are going to Europe on Rosh Hashanah. We have people down our block. My wife has been dropping into them forever. A number of years ago, she invited them for Rosh Hashanah. Sorry, Disney World. They're not home. They're leaving on Rosh Hashanah. So if we don't do it, nobody's going to do it. So I do it because it feels good, and I do it because my mother in her own family won, thank God. But globally we're losing, and I feel like I have to make her win. I have to make all the people who went through the Holocaust, and we lost 6 million neshamas. We have to fight. God will help us, but we have to do our part. Where it leads, that's up to Shemaim. I made a comment. So those are the 2 reasons why I do it. I just want to make one comment. Sometimes we talk about making people frum. My friends say to me, "Well, how do you make somebody frum?" You don't have to make them frum. All you have to do is open your heart. There's a neshama in every Jew. That neshama is a spark, and that is something that they're not necessarily aware of. But if you open your Jewish heart to them, and you're their friend, and you show them love, it's like oxygen for that flame. And you don't have to do anything else. They may ask you questions that you don't know the answers to, and that's fine. We don't have to. We're human. You can go find out. You can learn with them. You can go ask a rabbi. That's okay. And don't be afraid of the questions. We may have those questions ourselves. We have to ask them, and there are good answers. But just open your hearts. And it's easy, and Project Inspired makes it very easy, because you just give out these little boxes, just like the honey cake. Just take one, hang it on one door in your community, and if 10% of us, get a hit, they say with mass marketing there's a certain return rate that they expect. Well, if we all do it, there's a certain percentage that will be successful. And isn't that worth it if it's even one family? So and you're not asking them for anything at that point. You're just giving them a present. And most people know about Rosh Hashanah. Give them out this little gift. So what I did to challenge my friends is I actually bought 20 of them. My 2 kids are now delivering them with a little note from my friends saying, now you have no excuse. Just give it away to somebody. I even bought them for you. So I hope that they do, and that I hope we're all successful. So that's my story. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Weiss. I'd like to just thank Ms. Amiel Schiff, who really was a lifesaver for tonight's event. She came to help with Project Inspire, and I don't think any of us would be here tonight if not for her. So thank you so much, and I'd like to thank all the volunteers and everybody else who's helped. I came to Beis Yaakov here. I didn't go to Beis Yaakov, but I came here, I think 2 weeks ago, whenever school started, the first day of school. And they were so stressed. I said, "Why are you so stressed?" So they said, "It's crazy, Baruch Hashem, we have so many kids coming." And I said, "Just think about it. There isn't a single school in the city that is not observant, that's not frum, that has increasing enrollment. There isn't one." And I said, you should be very happy that Baruch Hashem in the frum world, we're bursting by the seams, and my own kids' cheder could use a new building, if anybody here wants to give it. And it's really, on one hand, the Pew report just came out this week, that the frum community is growing by leaps and bounds, Baruch Hashem, and unfortunately, those who are not affiliated are becoming much less affiliated. But I believe, and I work on this on the front ground, and I see some people over here who I'm close with, who never would have gone on the journey that they went on, if not for their neighbors. I saw somebody today at Shul, and he told me his last name. I said, "Wait, I know your last name, but you're not from here. Like, you don't live around here." He says, "That's true. I live in Eretz Yisrael. I came back for Rosh." I said, "But I know that there are a couple of people from NCSY who go to you every single week. Not to you, to your parents." And he said, "Yeah, that's true. I know those people. And Baruch Hashem, they're living amazing lives." So every one of us could make that difference. I'd also like to thank all of the Shul representatives. most of whom who have come here tonight, some have not, who are really representing their shuls and making sure that in every single shul in Toronto, we have representatives who are trying to spread the word. We're actually looking for female representatives, so you can let Amiela know if you're interested in that. And also, everybody should have gotten a pledge card at the back. This is not for money, although if you want to give donations, there is a table on the outside. But there's a pledge card to make sure that we're mezaka b'yem adin, and the way that we do that is pledging to care about Klal Yisrael, at the very least daven, obviously. But there's so much more that we could also be doing. And obviously, if we don't daven, I think the question is if we care, as Rabbi Lowy said. At this time, I'd like to introduce Rabbi Shapiro. The way I came to Rabbi Shapiro is I attended the Project Inspire convention in February. And they had pushed me. I was coming on board through NCSY with Project Inspire. They pushed me to come. And the truth is, forget about it. The Gashmis, I've never seen. In Toronto, Baruch Hashem, we're doing all right. But if you want Gashmis, Baruch Hashem, the Project Inspire convention is where to go in February. But the Ruchnius was unbelievable. And Rabbi Shapiro was a keynote over there, and I heard him once Friday night, and I decided I am going to every single talk by Rabbi Shapiro. And Baruch Hashem, I went, and my shver afterwards went to his shul, and it's really incredible. And it's a big schus. When we were thinking, who should we bring to Toronto? So we said that obviously we had to bring Rabbi Shapiro, and at this time I'd like to introduce Rabbi Shapiro.
Firstly, I want to begin Bershus the Meir D'Asra, Harav Lowy Shlita, who is not only the Meir D'Asra and someone that Klal Yisrael turns to, but someone that I also consider to be one of my Rabbeim. And when I have a shaila or just will ask something, Eitzah, just a moment ago I asked Harav Lowy a shaila. And so for me to speak in the presence of the Meir D'Asra Shlita is a very, very big schus. And I hope HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give the Rav and the entire Mishpacha the koyach and gesund to continue inspiring all of Klal Yisrael. I know Project Inspire at one point, I think on one of their videos they said, describe the weekend without using the word inspire. And I don't think anybody did. Or maybe a lot of people did, but it was a challenge. So I'm sorry to open up by using the word inspire, but it's not easy a few days before Rosh Hashanah to travel, to come here. I live in South Florida. But I could only imagine how difficult it must be to have to come out for an entire evening. And I am truly inspired that I am looking at hundreds of Anoshim Chashuvim and Anoshim Tzidkaniyos, that just a few days before Rosh Hashanah Tavshin Ayan Vav came out. And that to me is truly inspirational. Just the fact that the hundreds came out tonight here in Toronto on behalf of Project Inspire, as all of the flyers said, to see what could we do for a good judgment on Yom Hadin. Just from the fact that the hundreds of you came out, the Rebbeinu Shalom should grant each and every one of you, the Anoshim Chashuvim, the Noshim Tzidkaniyos, your families, to have a gebenchte gesunte Yar, and where you should experience only Yiddish and Nachas from your families and enjoy it together with your families. Your coming is truly inspiring. I am here because of Reb Leib Irons. We've had, I can't even imagine how many phone calls back and forth, the logistics, the planning, the flying, the car services, and all of the details. It's a credit to Reb Leib, and thank you very much for giving me the chance to be Mezaka the Rabbim. And just Achron Choviv to just mention before we actually start, to speak in the presence of Reb Chaim Samson. Reb Chaim Samson is the international director of Project Inspire. He's sitting somewhere in the audience just trying to blend in and camouflage himself. Reb Chaim, that doesn't happen. Because as the international director of Project Inspire, someone who's really changing the world, helping us realize what our achrayus is, the fact that he's here tonight and that he and Project Inspire allowed me to be here tonight, I have tremendous hakaras hatov. To Reb Chaim I say, ein milim befi lahabia rigshay levavi, to express how awesome it is to be in your presence. All of the flyers and the information that went out about tonight was how we can properly merit good judgment. We're just a few days before Rosh Hashanah. I think the words of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter to begin tonight jump at us. When Rabbi Yisrael Salanter was addressing this question, what can you do to be meritorious in judgment? Ribayna Shalaylam, we want to have a good gebenchte gesunte Yar. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter says, and I quote, Ki ha'etza ha'yechida liskos bedin. The single best piece of advice, the etza par excellence, bar none, lihiyos ish sherabim tzrichim loy. Lihiyos ish sherabim tzrichim loy. Become someone that other people need. Become someone to whom many people will say, Ribayna Shalaylam, I need him or I need her. They're indispensable to my existence. That's a quote from Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. Ki ha'yetza ha'yechida liskos badinhi liyos ish sherabim tzrichim loy. The ticket is, to how many people are you indispensable? To how many people do they feel, I can't get along without that person, I need them? That, says Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, is the ticket how to Be'ezras Hashem approach the Yemei Din. So thinking a great amount about tonight's talk, I'd like to take it from the following vantage point. We're going to divide the talk into two parts, following that which Chazal say, Sur Meira v'asei toiv. First, you got to remove the bad before you could accentuate the good. And I'd like to hopefully accomplish this goal, b'siyata d'shmaya, by taking one word that has the same three letters, Ayan, Resh, Vez, and in tonight's words, giving it three separate meanings. So hopefully that will be an easy way for you to remember what we say tonight. First is Sur Meira, then is Asei Toiv, and I know that there are three ways to translate Ayin, Resh, Vez. Here's the first. Sur Meira means we have to get rid of a certain problem. Right after the Yemei Din, we approach Sukkot, we take the Daled Minim. I once heard in the name of Rav Mordechai Banet of Nitra, an incredible pshat. Did you ever notice something unique? When you take the Daled Minim, three of the four are spoken about in a very, very endearing way. We speak about the esrog. In fact, people will spend a fortune, and in many cases, rightfully so, for that esrog muhudar. Talk about the lulav. I remember, and I'm certainly not the oldest one in the room, when it came to the lulav, we used to protect it in a plastic case. Then that became a hard plastic. Now there's like a virtual tank to protect your lulav. And hadassim. People will spend money on hadassim as well. But why is it that when you go to buy the Daled Minim, did you ever notice the one who's selling it to you will say, here's the price and I'll throw in the Aravos. And after a few days when the Aravos have become black, come back to me, I'll give you another one. What did the Arava do wrong? There's the first word of Ayin, Resh, Vez, Arava. What did the Arava do wrong? The way we talk about the Esroigim, the Lulovim, the Hadassim, rightfully so. But why does the Arava get the short end of the deal? Rav Mordechai Banet Minaitra tells us, because look where the Daled Minim come from, for the most part. Esroigim will get from the finest pardesim, the orchards in Eretz Yisrael, from overseas, thousands of miles away. Lulavim. Lulavim as well, they come in mostly, many come from France and many come from different places in Europe, the finest lulavim. Hadassim as well will be shipped from overseas, some from China, different places in the Orient, but all those three I just mentioned, they come from thousands of miles away. You know where many people get their aravos from? Yeah, their own backyard. Many people grow aravos in their backyard, and they simply cut it. Says Ramorcha Banet Minaitra, that's the answer to the question. The lulavim and the esraigim and the hadassim are spoken about with awe and reverence because the mystique is there. They come from afar. But the arava? In my own backyard? We tend to take that for granted. Those who are nearest to us and those who are dearest to us, we tend to take for granted. And that's why the arava is in my backyard, I'll throw it in. And if after 3 days something happens, I'll give you another one. Because when something comes from far away, there's a mystique, there's an awe, there's a reverence. But those that are closest to us, our spouses, our siblings, the nearest and dearest, we tend to take them for granted. You know what Mordechai Banet of Nitra says about the Arava? That's a ginormous mistake. You know why? Because take a look at the Gemara in Sukkah. When the Yom Tov is coming to an end and the Kohanim circle around the Mizbeach, and the Yom Tov is closing, what do they circle the Mizbeach with at the end of the day when all is said and done? It's not the esroigim, it's not the lulavim, and it's not the hadassim. The Gemara says they encircle the Mizbeach with just the arava. Because at the end of the day, all we have, the nearest and dearest, the arava in our life. Now, no one should go to their spouse or sibling and say, how's my arava doing? That's not a good idea. Rabbi say that's where tonight's topic starts. We're looking for that rabbim that need us, to whom we're indispensable. Look no further than across your kitchen table. Because sometimes the arava is taken for granted. We're with them all the time. It's interesting, the word family and familiarity have most of the same letters, because with our family we are most familiar. That has a maila, but that has a huge chisaron, because sometimes we take them for granted. And at the end of the day, when the yontif is over and the mystique and the hadassim and the lulavim and the esroigim are no longer in your lives, you can't depend and count on them. You know who you have? The arava. So in dealing with Sur Meirah, we first have to make sure, like Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said, that the rabbim that need us, our spouse, our siblings, our parents, our children, we can't begin tonight by looking any further than our kitchen table. Is all in order with the aravos in our life, those who are nearest and dearest? That's question number one. Because if the answer is no, that's where it starts with. The rabbim is not the rabbim that's thousands of miles away. The rabbim starts with my family. My father, Harav Mordechai Shapiro Zatzal, tells us a fabulous way to be successful in these relationships, these Arava relationships. It says in Pirkei Avos that one of the miracles in the Beis Hamikdash was Oimdim Tzefufim Mishtachavim Revachim. Literally that means that when they stood, it was very cramped and crowded, but when they would bow, there was ample room. Oimdim Tzefufim Mishtachavim Revachim. My father said a gewaldige Wort, 101 in a relationship with an Arava. Oimdim, if you're always going to stand your ground rigidly, I'm right, and you never capitulate, tzefufim, the whole relationship will be miserable, crowded, and cramped. Mishtachavim, if you're willing to bow and bend, hear the other person's point of view, give them the time of day, validate them, then revachim, the whole relationship will be something of revach, a thing of beauty. That's a vart. Take that with you into Rosh Hashanah. Reb Chaim, I see you like that vart. Oindim tzefufim, when you deal with the Arava, those nearest and dearest, we can't be so rigid and not hear the other person's point of view and always putting them down. It will be tzefufim, it will be miserable. Mishtachavim, validate, give them the time of day, show them the love, revachim, that's the ticket. In fact, a little while ago, I saw in a sefer, Umasu Ka'or, a gematria, that I think is going down in my books as one of the most sensational and delectable ones I ever saw. It says in Kairach, Rashi says, what did Kairach do wrong? Shalokach atzmai letzad echad, which literally means he took himself off to the side and he separated himself from everyone. He put himself on one side. In other words, he didn't get along with the Rabbim, the Tzibur. I saw the following gematria brought down. The proper way to go to any relationship with those Aravos, those in your life, when you approach them, there will be disagreements, there will be issues, there will be different things that come up. You have to realize it's not like Kairach said, there's only one tzad, my way or no way. What? You have to realize, I have a tzad, but so do you. I have to view everything with this tzad and that tzad. And if you do that, the numeric value of the word tzad, tzadi dalid, is 94. A wise person does what I just told you. They face the Arava and they say, you know, this is how I feel, but I hear your point. Tzad and tzad. 94 times 2 is 188. The Hebrew for the word a wise man is a pikeach. Pei kuf ches. It's 188. You know what makes you a pikeach in a relationship? Realize there's my tzad and the other tzad. And I've got to validate it as well. Now here's the thing of beauty. I have to do that, but so do you. I have to view it with a tzad here and here, and so do you. That means I'm bringing in, so to speak, the power of a pikeach 188. But you must also be a pikeach. You're bringing your own 188. What do you get when you bring pikeach together? 188 times 2, 376. The word shalom, peace, shin lamed vav mem, is 376. I hold that's a gematria. Step number 1 to Sur Meirah, Rabbi Yisrael Salanter says, you want to be Zoiche B'din, make sure that people find you to be indispensable. Don't start by looking outside, look inside. It's making amends with a sibling or whoever it might be, an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, making sure the spouse is being treated properly. It all begins by valuing the Arava nearest and dearest, because at the end of the day, when everything else is gone, you know who will be there for you? The Arava. And the first thing to do to make sure, Sur Meirah, that we get rid of this negativity is realize the next time I feel, when she calls me, when he calls me, right away there's an issue. 1 minute. I'm going to be a pikeach. There's my tzad and there's her tzad. Together, that's pikeach. And if you'll do the same, I'll be a pikeach and you'll be a pikeach. 188 times 2 is shalom, 376. That's the way to have and bring peace to the world. It starts with the Sur Meirah. One final note before we speak about the next group that Rabbi Yisrael Salanter might be talking about. Sometimes when we speak negatively of these people in our families, or might be another yid, we're very quick to use a word that's not so nice. Be moichel me. He's a koifer. She's a koifer. A koifer means essentially they deny, they're no good. We're quick to write people off. Rabbi Say, you know what the root of the word koifer is? When Noach was told to cover the teva, the pasuk says ve-chatarta. You should cover it. You know what the root etymologically of the word koifer is? Ve-chatarta. It's covered over. But the beauty is there. And so the next time we're very quick to turn to someone in an argument and not to hear their point of view, but to stand rigid. I'm right. Tell yourself, really, you think they're a kaifer? Kaifer is from the word ve-chatima. The beauty is covered over. They're a gem. They're a jewel. Every yid is. But sometimes it may be ve-chatima. It may be covered over. I just saw a week ago a vort from the Barditchever Rebbe, Rebbe Leib Yitzchak ben Sarasosh. Imagine taking this into Yontif. In the V'chol Maminim that we'll say in a few days, it says V'chol Maminim, and then the second part of the stanza is Hatoiva Hametiv Laroyim V'Latoivim. I know it's a song, but believe it or not, before it was a song, it was actually part of the tefillah. Says, Heilige Barditchever Rebbe, Laroyim V'Latoivim, Hatoiva Hametiv Laroyim V'Latoivim. Listen to a vart. We should turn to the Rebbeinu Shalom and say, Rebbeinu Shalom, Hatoiva Hametiv Laroyim. If you'll just be good to those who are ra, those who seem to be evil and bad, you'll see V'Latoivim. They'll really be good. We ask the Rebbeinu Shalom, Hatoiva Hametiv Laroyim. Look at those that we think are bad. Give them a little parnasa. Give them shalom. Give them gesund. And you'll see ve-chatima. Really, their goodness is covered over. And those that we think are rayim, v'latoivim, they will be, and they are intrinsically good. We have to emulate the ways of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Let's stop viewing people as royim. They're no good. They're a kaifer. You know what? Hatoiva hametiv. Show them a little bit of goodness, a little bit of light, a little bit of love, and those that you think are royim, v'latoivim, they will be oh so good. Now that we've taken care of the business of Sur Meirah, and I will make amends, we will make amends before Rosh Hashanah with an Arava, say something we should have said a while ago, fix something we should have done a while ago. We'll do it by realizing I and they will be a pikeach, and that will bring shalom. Now that we've taken care of the Arava, let's move on to another root of Ayan Reish Beis and bring us to the part of after Sur Meirah Asay Toiv, just to look and to do good. The Radomsker Rebbe says a vort, I believe I said this at the convention a few months ago, the one you referred to. You're looking to have your tefillas answered, is that right? You know what it says in Shir HaShirim? Hashmi'ini es kailech ki kailech orev. We ask Hashem, listen to our voice because we have orev. There's that word again. Ayin reish veis. Sweet, says the Radomsker. No. Don't read the word orev as sweet, but rather as arevus. Arevus means responsibility. The Rav spoke extensively about that earlier. Says the Radomsker Rebbe, you want your tefillas answered? Here's the key. Hashmi'ini es koilech. Do you want to know when I'll listen to your tefillos? Ki koilech orev. If you have a voice of arevus, kol yisrael arevim zeh bazeh, there's that word ayin reish veis again. Responsibility, arevus. We're living through a time where we want our tefillos answered. Think about what occurred since last Rosh Hashanah. It's a different world after the Har Nof massacre. I landed in Eretz Yisrael for my father's yard site, and it was in the middle of the Levayas from the Kedoshim of Har Nof. A winter where in different parts of Europe there was tremendous anti-Semitism. People went into their Pesach Seder thinking about Reb Gavriel Sassoon. It's a night of v'higadet lebincha, speak to your family, and he saw 7 empty chairs. The Rebbeinu Shalom says, Hashmi'ini es koilech, I will listen to your tefillos, but here's the catch. Ki koilech orev. You better have responsibility. Kol Yisrael arevim zeh bazeh. We don't live in a bubble. Project Inspire, headed by Reb Chaim Samson, has redefined the word of arevus, of responsibility. You heard from all of the speaker tonight so eloquently. If we would find that one. Rabbi say there's so much on the line. Hashmini es koilech ki koilech arev. And by the way, perhaps the best part, or at least the part I enjoy most of the vart, says Heilige Radomsker Rebbe. Which of the three avos taught us this Arevus, getting along, the best? It would be Yaakov Avinu, because we know amongst the Shvatim there was sinna and kinna, hatred and jealousy, and at the end of the day, what does it say about the Shvatim? Yachad Shiftei Yisrael, everybody got along. Yaakov teaches us this getting along better than we learn the most from Yaakov Avinu. Says the Heilige Radomski Rebbe, what's the name of the tefillah that Avram established? What do we call that tefillah? Shachris. What do we call the name of the tefillah that Yitzchak established? Mincha. What do we call the name of the tefillah that Yaakov established? And don't answer Ma'ariv. Answer Arvis. Yaakov Avinu is teaching us as we approach Rosh Hashanah, Tafshin, Ayan, Vav, did you daven Tfilas Arvis? You know there's a checklist at night. I daven Shachris, I daven Mincha, I daven Ma'ariv, but did you daven Arvis? Might I humbly add, I'm not paskening in front of the Rav Shlita, but while the Gemara in Bracha says, according to one opinion, Ma'ariv might be a Reshus optional, I humbly suggest while Ma'ariv might be optional, Arvis is a choiva, it's obligatory. Now, which person has a right on any given day not to daven Tfilas Arvis? Actually, if you think about Project Inspire, they're all about Tfilas Arvis. We know I daven Shachris, Mincha, and Ma'ariv, but did I daven Arvis? There's a world out there waiting for us. And the Rebbeinu Shalom says, Hashmi'ini es koilech, I'll listen, ki koilech arev. Arvis means you show responsibility one yid for another. My father often said over a maisa, there are few maisas you'll hear in your life like this one. From the Kapishnitzer Rebbe, Zechusa Yagan Aleinu. It was Yom Kippur afternoon, the Lower East Side. The Kapishnitzer Rebbe was walking during a break, perhaps before Mincha or after Musaf, and he's walking with a gabbai the Lower East Side, Yom Kippur afternoon. He sees there's a restaurant, and in the front of the restaurant there's a glass window, and he sees that there is a Yid who is eating in the front of the restaurant, Yom Kippur. The Kapishnitzer Rebbe walks in and he goes over to the Yid and he says, and I quote, Gujomtif Reb Yid, un es mit Appetit. Eat with a hearty appetite. When they walked out, the Gabbai said to the Kapishnitzer Rebbe, Rebbe, why do you tell someone es mit Appetit on Yom Kippur? Listen to what the Rebbe said. On Yom Kippur and Yom HaKadosh, the Rebbeinu Shalom judges us either as a mumar lahachis or a mumar l'teyavain, someone who sinned deliberately and maliciously, or someone who sinned l'teyavain, giving into temptation and desire. When I walked by the restaurant and I saw him eating deliberately, I knew the Rebbeinu Shalom was going to punish him today as a mumar lahachis. I wanted to downgrade him. I wanted him to only be punished as a less severe mumar l'teyavain. So I walked in and I said, Gujomtif Reb Yid, un es mit Appetit. This way, when he now eats, not deliberately, but with a geschmack and a desire, he'll be punished as the less severe mumar l'teyavain. Rabbi Isai, that's Tfilas Arvis. I have to tell you the truth. Sometimes when I think of the story, I wonder if I would have walked by the restaurant, what would I have said? And unfortunately, I don't think I would have said Rabbi Yid es mit Appetit. But maybe after hearing the story, and maybe after learning about Project Inspire, maybe I would have. Because you got to care about everyone. Tfilas Arvis. Hashmi'ini es koilech ki koilech arev. It's all about achrayus. As I said at the convention, everybody has to make sure they have achrayus responsibility. How do you spell the word achrayus? Aleph, Ches, Resh, Yud, Vav, Saf. Every one of those 6 letters tell you how to have true responsibility. Aleph is the first letter. Aleph means one. I've got to be responsible and take care of myself. The next letter is a Ches. Aleph, Ches. is ach, my brother. The Arava we opened up with. You take care of them? The next letter of Achrayus is a Resh. Aleph Ches Resh is Acher, someone else. You take care of the unaffiliated? The next letter of Achrayus is a Yud. Aleph Ches Resh Yud. Acharai. Tell someone I'm farleslach. You could follow after me. Let them sense you're the real deal. Either by placing all of the honey bags and the challahs and the sweet things on people's doors. Well, let them see you mean it. In fact, Toronto is launching or has launched their triple play. Now in baseball, a triple play unassisted is a pretty big deal for those who know what that sports term meant. But I think that it's meaningless when it comes to Toronto's triple play. You know what Toronto's triple play is? And I believe that was the brainchild of Reb Chaim Samson and others. It means before you get to Shabbos Parshas Lech Lecha and invite them to your home for Shabbos, let them see it. Like you heard the packages and the boxes that are made. Invite them and inspire them for Rosh Hashanah. That's the first part. Invite them and inspire them for Sukkot. That's the second part. So that when it comes to Shabbos Parshas Lech Lecha, the Shabbos project that is resounding around the world, that will be the third. That's a triple play. Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, culminating in the worldwide Shabbos project. Don't be left out of the triple play. That's Tfilas Arvis. And so the letter Aleph Ches Reish Yud means Acharai, follow after me because I'm real. What's the next letter? Aleph Ches Reish Yud Vav, Acharav. You know I'll follow after this guy. I see you're the real deal. You walk the walk, you talk the talk, you're sincere. Acharav, I'll follow you. And what's the last letter? Tough. Aleph Ches Reish Yud Vav Saf. The first letter is an Aleph, the last letter is a Tough. That's the beginning and end of the Aleph base, Aleph to Tough. Because you've got to be there for a fellow Yid, beginning to end. Saying that I'll be there for you because you know you daven next to me in shul. We come from the same shtetl. You're part of my milieu. You have the same havara. That's not called achdus. That's called cloning. Truly being there, as you heard in the letter that the Rav read, the person said, if somebody would have just showed me, cared, looked for me, Aleph to Tov, beginning to end. So they're not exactly like me. They don't have the same background. They don't know the beauty of Shabbos, Aleph to Tov. And that's Achrayus. Aleph to you, Aleph Ches to your brothers, Aleph Ches Reish to Acher, everyone else. Aleph Ches Reish Yud, follow Acharai after me, I'm the real deal. Aleph Ches Reish Yud Vav, Acharav, I'm comfortable with you. Aleph to Tov, beginning to end. That's the way to do it. I mentioned the story a little while ago with Rav Moshe Feinstein. There was a woman, I heard this story from the doctor himself, the son of the lady involved. She needed to take medicine on Pesach for her heart condition. So she, every year, Erev Pesach, would call Reb Moshe and ask him, can I take the medicine? And every year, Erev Pesach, Reb Moshe would patiently explain to her why she could take the heart medicine, why it wasn't chametz, why it was okay. Explain it thoroughly and wish her a good yor, a good Yom Tov. Every year. This went on for over 20 years, Erev Pesach. And now Erev Pesach's a pretty busy day. Probably the busiest day. For a Rav, exponentially, it's probably, like they say, with the pressure that's just south of the near nuclear explosion in 3 Mile Island about 30 years ago. And for Reb Moshe, Erev Pesach, we can't fathom. The son tells me, one year my mother had gotten a bit elderly and she forgot to call Reb Moshe. Two hours before Yom Tov, Pesach's to begin, the phone rings in her home and she picks up. And the voice on the other end says, hello, this is Moshe Feinstein calling. I didn't hear from you today. to find out about your medicine. I was concerned. Are you okay? When I didn't hear from you, I was worried. Are you all right? And then he went on to reassure her that she could take the medicine, it's not a problem, and again, vinshed her on a good yomtiv. Rabbi Say, do we fathom that story? I know that if I would come home, perhaps I shouldn't say it publicly. And there's a phone call that I had to make, but my wife or somebody will tell me, no, they called and said you don't need to call them, or they forgot to call you. That's like a simcha, that's enjoyable. Reb Moshe on Erev Pesach calls a woman, I didn't hear from you today. Are you all right? I was concerned. Because Reb Moshe understood Achrayas is Aleph, Ches, Resh, Yud, Vav, Sof, Aleph to Tov, beginning to end. Hashmi'ini es kailech ki kailech orev. You have to have a voice of responsibility. I just want to say one final thought before we go to the third definition of Ayan Reish Beis. What does it take to become this person? What does it take? My father once wondered, how could it be that the Hebrew for the word to be alive is neshama? And the Hebrew for the word to be desolate and void is neshama. One could look in the Haftarah of Parshas Parah and they'll see many times that word. What? They're the same letters, nun, shin, mem, hey. Virtually identical nekudais. Neshama means to be alive, and neshama means void. Why should I get up in the morning? What's the difference between neshama and neshama? Under the shin of neshama is a patach, which looks like this. Under the shin of neshama is a kamatz. How do you make a kamatz from a patach? A patach is a line across like this. So how do you make a kamatz from a patach? You add a little support underneath. And when you add a little support, you create a neshama. Ask people who have no support. Ask people who would not know that on Purim you hear a Megillah, and on Chanukah you light a menorah, and on Pesach you eat matzah, and on Sukkot you take Daled Minim. And what did we just hear about Rosh Hashanah? Rosh Hashanah in Disney World, Rosh Hashanah in hotels all over different European countries. When people have no support, their life is neshama. Show a little support, and you create a neshama. That's all it takes. And I think that's why we heard from a few people tonight, and as well in the name of Reb Noach Weinberg Zatzal, if everybody would find one neshama, we'd rewrite history. It doesn't take something big and grandiose. It doesn't take my entire city and 1,000 families and a mountain that's insurmountable. The difference between neshama and neshama is a little support. If everybody would take upon themselves one yid, one family, one person, history would be rewritten tonight. Everybody has to create a neshama. After all, is that not what Reb Yisrael Salanter said? Ha'etza ha'yechida liskais badinhi lihiyos ish sherabim tzrichem loy. To how many are you indispensable? When I had the privilege of writing this in an article a few months ago, I actually asked these questions, which I'll quickly ask to you. How do you do on the following checklist? To how many people are you truly indispensable? How many people can you say depend on you for chizuk? Huh? How many people count on you for Shabbos and Yontif Suda? And I don't mean when they get called Friday afternoon. How many people count on you to learn with them and teach them more about Yiddishkeit? And their children, if they are the parent, aren't there. How many people count on you to help them financially and emotionally? To how many people are you a shoulder to cry on, a listening ear? Do you provide a warm smile or a kind word? And finally, how many people could you honestly say count on you for advice, guidance, inspiration, and compassion. That's a checklist. And the same way a person goes into Yom Tov with a checklist, I made this for this meal, and that for that meal, and I took the suit to the cleaners, and the car is filled with gas, and I'm ready to go. Ask yourself the checklist that I just mentioned. How many people on Rosh Hashanah are going to say, Ribayna Shalaylam, please grant him a good gebench the yar. I need them. And I can't live without them. No? How many people are you indispensable? For the advice, for the guidance, for the chizuk, financially, emotionally, Yom Tov, Shabbos, learn with them. That's a checklist. And that's the second definition, arvis. And now for the third and final definition, perhaps the one that we most associate the Ayan Reish Vez with, more than Arava, and more than that concept of Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh B'Zeh. It's what I said a few moments ago, V'harevna. You know how to do this? The upshot of everything we've said, really everything, the relationships with those nearest and dearest, those with whom you have been in a fight, those unaffiliated, it's all the same answer. Tell them how sweet it is. I believe I heard in the name of our Gadol Hador Reb Chaim Kanievsky, Zol gesund und stark sein. I believe I heard in his name the following question: why is it that in Birchas HaTorah we say V'harivna, yet we know that the Ava Rabbah could also act as Birchas HaTorah if one didn't say the Birchas HaTorah, yet in the Ava Rabbah, or Avas Oilim if you daven Svard, there's such a long list. Lahavinu, lahaskil, lishmoya, lilmoid, ulamed, lishmor, velasais, maybe 10 things long. Why is that list not in the bracha of V'harivna? You know what Reb Chaim said? Because if you have V'harivna and it's sweet, you have everything. If you have V'harivna, by definition you have the lilmoid, lilamed, lishmor, velasais, only when you don't have it. Could we please leave here tonight and go into Yumei Din, Tov Ayan Vav, showing them the Harivna? There's nothing sweeter. It's that triple play I mentioned earlier, Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, and Parshas Lech Lecha. It's getting involved with Project Inspire. You don't mind if hundreds of us come to you and want to get involved tonight, I'm sure. Bombard Project Inspire more than they were ever given. I want to do. Tell them that. V'harivna, could you please leave here tonight showing somebody how sweet it is? Our family mechutin, Reb Moshe Schmelzer, the Menal of Tel Chicago, has told me the following Reb Moshe story many times. I simply can't get enough of it. The first part of the story is a little bit sad, so I apologize. But years and decades ago, some Bochum decided to make prank phone calls. And the pranks were going to be to different poskim, different gedolim, and fabricate silly halacha questions. One of these boys, it was his turn to call Reb Moshe. It pains me to even say this part of the story. But fasten your seatbelt and listen to the rest. He had to call Reb Moshe. He called about 11 o'clock. Reb Moshe had already gone in. The Rebbetzin said, should I wake the Rosh Hashiva? And the boy who was going to play the prank said yes. Reb Moshe came to the phone and said hello. He said, excuse me, I have to wash my hands. Netilas Yadayim and make brachos. He then asks Reb Moshe his silly prank shayla. Reb Moshe picked up right away that it's a joke. And so he says to this Bacher, where do you learn? The Bacher, fearing that he would be in trouble, didn't want to answer. Maybe something's going to happen to me. Reb Moshe reassured him, nothing will happen, don't worry. Where do you learn? He tells him. What Gemara are you learning? Tells him. What daf are you on? Tells him. He says, let me ask you a kasha on Tosfos. He asks it to the boy on that page. Asking that kasha on Tosfos to the boy, of course the boy didn't know. You want to know ve-chatima? I'll tell you ve-chatima. Rav Moshe says, let's learn the Gemara. Of course, Rav Moshe, without taking the Gemara, word for word, Gemara and Rashi. Did you get it? Let's do it again. Any better? Let's do it again. I don't know if Rav Moshe taught him word for word 3 times or 4 times, Gemara, Rashi, every single word. Now let's do Taisus. And he taught him Taisus. After he instilled in the Bachar, ve-chatima, look how sweet it is. He then said, now let me ask you the kasha again. And he asked it to the boy, and the boy said, you know, it's a good kasha. That's an unbelievable question. Rav Moshe says, here's what I want you to do. Tomorrow, I want you to go to yeshiva, and when you learn this sugya and Taisus, I want you to ask your Rebbe this kasha. The next morning he's in class, and he asks the kasha. And the Rebbe says, that's an unbelievable kasha. Where'd you get it from? He says, from Reb Moshe Feinstein. The Rebbe says, I need to think about it. At the end of the week, after thinking about it for those few days, he comes back, and he gives the boy an answer. The boy says, I was so empowered by the sweetness of Torah. I was so empowered by the patience and loving guidance of Reb Moshe that Reb Moshe had the chokhmah, 1,000 psychologists might not think of it. Empower the boy with a question so that the boy can go in, and now all of a sudden, he says to himself, my Rebbe thought about my kasha for almost a week? I mamish had the power of that kasha? The boy turned his life around. And yes, I will tell you, and it's 100% accurate. Maisa shahaya kachaya. The boy today is no boy. He's a choshev, a magid shir in a very prestigious yeshiva gedola in the tri-state area. A prestigious yeshiva in the tri-state area, a choshev, a magid shir. You know why? Because ve-chatima. He tasted the sweetness, and he tasted the patience and the guidance of Reb Moshe, and it turned his life around. You know, Rabbi Say Chazal tell us, Adam la'amal yulad. You know how everybody translates Adam la'amal yulad? People were created la'amal. What's a good definition? To toil. You know how you spell la'amal? Lamed, Ayan, Mem, Lamed. You know what Lamed, Ayan, Mem, Lamed really stands for? Lilmoid al menas lelamed. Rabbi Say, we weren't created to live in our own bubble and cocoon. Adam la'amal yulad stands for lilmoid al menas lelamed. We have to show the beauty. There's a pshat from the Radomsker in Pirkei Avos. You know everybody translates that? If you learned a lot of Torah, don't pat yourself on the back and think you're a gift to the world. You were created to learn. You know what the Radomsker says? Anytime you have the word toiv, toiv is Torah. Im lamada to Torah harbe. If you're privileged to learn a lot of Torah, al tachazik toiva la'atzmecha. Don't keep all that goodness for yourself. Don't be selfish. Al tachzik toiva. Don't keep the beauty of Yiddishkeit la'atzmecha. Ki lakach natzarta. You were created to spread it. In fact, if you rearrange the letters of the word natzarta, it spells the word tzinayros. Tzinayros is a pipe. Pipe it into another yid. Tell me something. Is there a better definition in the world for Project Inspire than that? I'm sure many people will say there is. I humbly think that was it. Im lamadat Torah harbe. Tell me something. You know in a few days is Rosh Hashanah. Do you know millions don't? Do you know many think there's nothing wrong with eating on Yom Kippur? What are you talking about? Going into a sukkah? What are you going to that hut for on Sukkot? Menorah, Megillah, what's wrong with bread on Pesach? Al tachazik toiva la'atzmecha. Don't keep that goodness and beauty for yourself. You were created to spread it. And that's the way we began tonight's talk. We're looking for judgment on Rosh Hashanah. Says Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, Ki ha'etza ha'yechida liskais badinhi. Let's say those words again. The single greatest piece of advice to be meritorious in judgment is Lihios ish tzerabim tzrichem loy. Become indispensable to as many as you can. To the Arava, to those nearest and dearest, to people that you need to make amends tonight. Kol Yisrael arevim zeh bazeh. Achrayis, Aleph Ches Reish Yud Vav Sav. And what does it take? Neshama, just a little bit of support. After we've tackled the Arava and we realized, I start with those nearest and dearest. Then I realize Hashmini as Kailech Ki Kailech Arev. I have to have a voice of responsibility. The third definition is the one we mentioned, V'harevna. It's so sweet. It's so sweet. And the sweetness turns lives around. When people will get serious about the triple play of Project Inspire, when people will get serious about the Shabbos project, that which is used around the world, and so many, including Project Inspire, help to promote. V'harevna, show them the sweetness. And that's a way to make sure we're indispensable to people. I just want to end with one Maisa. There was a couple that worked for Leib La'achim, the Kiruv organization, in the northern part of Eretz Yisrael. They did fabulous work. They had a boy who just turned 3. In fact, when I said this over recently, someone who knows the family extremely well added in a very, very, very sad detail. Their 3-year-old, who had had the upsharon in the morning, went to Cheder, and as the day progressed, he wasn't feeling well. And after he went to lie down in Cheder, unfortunately, the 3-year-old was nifter. And this couple that worked for Leib La'achim had to now sit Shiva for their 3-year-old. Someone who knows the family very well said, in Eretz Yisrael, they say that in the morning, on the way to the upsharon, they wrapped their 3-year-old in a talis, and at night, by Kvura, they also wrapped their 3-year-old in a talis. By that they mean many have the custom that in the morning, by an upsharon, you wrap in a talis so the eyes don't see anything that's not pure. And they're sitting Shiva. Sometimes people in a Shiva home don't say the brightest things. And that was being kind. The man who's sitting Shiva for his 3-year-old gets a phone call. He comes back and this is what he says. I am currently trying to be Makarev 8 boys that don't keep Shabbat. One of the 8 just called, representing the other 7, and said to me, the rabbi, we heard what happened to your 3-year-old. In his memory, I and the other 7, the 8 of us, this Shabbat will keep one Shabbos. This Shabbos. For your 3-year-old. He comes back very moved and he shares this with everybody. And someone who did not say something very bright, probably meant no harm, but still, he says to the rabbi, the phone call was nice from the 8 boys. Like, is it such a big deal? They'll keep this one Shabbos and that's it. You know, who says they're going to keep Shabbos again? One Shabbos and they're going to keep Shabbos again? It's nice, but not that lasting or meaningful. Just one Shabbos. Our friend looks at this man and he says, I'll answer your question. You want to know if it's meaningful that they'll keep one Shabbos? Do you know what my wife and I would do, he says, to get our 3-year-old back for one Shabbos? Do you know what we would do so I could feel him holding my hand again, bringing him back from Shul Shabbos day? Or for my wife to see that he'd be bouncing on my knee while we sing Zmirais? You know what we would do to get him back for one Shabbos? You want to know if it's a big deal? We would give up everything to have him back for one Shabbos. And then he turns to the man and says, now the Rebbeinu Shalom is getting 8 children for one Shabbos. 8 of his children back for one Shabbat. You still want to know if it's a big deal? Ask my wife. The Rebbeinu Shalom is getting back 8 children for one Shabbos. That's a big deal. And so through the triple play and approaching the Shabbos project, maybe the Rebbeinu Shalom will get back hundreds of thousands for one Shabbos. It's a big deal. In fact, it's the biggest deal to take into Rosh Hashanah, period. Let's be Zaycha. This is the month, as the Rav said, of Elul, Anila Daidi V'Daidi Li. But if you spell those letters backwards, Aleph, Lamed, Vav, Lamed, spell it backwards, it's Lamed, Vav, Lamed, Aleph. You know what that spells? Lule. You know what Lule means in English? Lule, if only. Lule, if only. You know who says that? People who live with regret. If only I would have done that sooner. If only I would have called him. If only I wouldn't have said that to her. If only I would have listened to the speech. There are some people who live their entire life Lule-esque in nature. They live with regret. If only I would have done this. If only I would have taken it serious. Don't let this month end as Lule. A month where we regret, I didn't. Some people live their whole life that way. As this month comes to an end, we better make sure that it's not the month of Lule, but it's the month of Elul. Anila Daidi V'Daidi Li. May it be the will of the Rebbeinu Shalom that because we came together tonight on behalf of Project Inspire, and we will make sure, number one, the first Ayan Reish Vez is the Arava, I will care for those nearest and dearest. The second Ayan Reish Vez is Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh B'Zeh, I have to show responsibility. And the last Ayan Reish Vez is V'harivna, how sweet it is. Let's take that schus into Yom Hadin. That's a big deal. Let's take what Rabbi Yisrael Salanter says to heart. You want to be meritorious in judgment? Become someone that you are indispensable to people, that they will in shul say, I need that person. And in that schus, that the rabbim need us. Our families need us. Our neighbors and co-workers need us. The unaffiliated need us. May it be the will of the Rebbeinu Shalom that we never experience Lule, but Elul. And in that schus, may the Rebbeinu Shalom grant every one of us, because we are so indispensable and needed, because of the chizuk we provide to others, may we be zeichet to have a ksiva ve-chatima toiva, a gebenchte gesunte yor, and a year filled with only Yiddish and nachas to be enjoyed gesundheit.
Thank you very much, Robbie Shapiro. In conclusion, everybody had a sheet on their chair, so please take a look. We have a Shabbat, so a very practical thing to give Shabbos to somebody else. Tishrei triple play. I just want to end with a quick thought before you leave. So, when we walk out of here tonight, let's commit to do something to help our neighbor, our friend. Let's take an action. And before Shabbos, let's make sure that we're going into Rosh Hashanah with this incredible schus. And you know, we get asked oftentimes that why should we do kiruv? Why should we care about kiruv, donate to kiruv, do anything about kiruv? We have so many issues ourselves that we have to take care of. Right? We have shidduchim. We have every last issue under the book. There's a project for everything. Why care about kiruv? And I think we heard the answer here tonight loud and clear from Rabbi Lowy and Rabbi Shapiro, that the reason is that if we take care of Hashem's children, then Hashem will take care of us to be his chus for shidduchim, parnasa, for Yeshua, for everything we need. And if we're able to daven for Hashivenu Hashem Elecha v'Neshuva, then Taka will be Zayche for V'kabetz Nidachenu Me'arba Kanfeis Haaretz Chaverim Kol Yisrael, every single Jew. V'noimar, Amen. We're going to have Ma'ariv now on this side of the Mechitza. Thank you so much. You could give your pledge cards to the volunteers, and we meet V'zayche Badin. Kol Tov.